So what really is bass exactly? Because a lot of us think we know what it is, but do we really know what it could be? Maybe even what it should be? What if I told you that bass should be tight, controlled, detailed even, a word usually reserved to describe higher frequencies, and well integrated? So obviously guys, my goal today is to help you understand what controlled, truly great bass can really be like. But before we get into all of that, don't forget to get subscribed to the channel because a lot of cool stuff's coming up. Click that bell icon. And I want to ask you the question of the day, which is, up until now, what do you think has been the best subwoofer that you've heard? For me, it's another JL Audio product called the Gotham. Look that one up. So what's the story with JL Audio? Where did these guys come from? How did they get their start? Why did they come so highly recommended already by me, even to the point that I just said one of their products is my most favorite subwoofer product ever? JL got their start in 1975, and many of you listening probably have at least heard of JL's car audio products, or maybe even their marine audio products. Starting out, and to this day still, they have been all about the car and marine worlds. How do you make your car absolutely bump? How do you make your boat the party boat? That's been JL. And if you guys have any experience with any of those products, you probably know that they're among the best, if not some of the absolute best in those respective categories that you've heard. I was always wondering, like, what's the next thing I could put into my car? And usually going to my local store that did car audio, JL products were always in the top running for what I thought sounded the best. And that's just cars, and they were that good. But when they got into this home space and released some of their first products, very quickly did they become one of the most decorated, and now I believe the most decorated in terms of number of publications written about them, product in the home subwoofer market. JL also owns the most patents specific to subwoofers ever. They have an entire line coming in at different price points and respective performance levels, and they can accommodate just about anybody. The D series, or the Dominion here, is technically their entry level, but JL's entry sounds better than most people's mid. I'm going to tell you why. So JL's got some really cool things going on underneath the hood of the D series subs, and they've got plenty of unique features in their other lines as well. But of course, let's talk about the D110 here. Obviously, if you haven't guessed by now, D110 refers to the fact that this is a single 10-inch sub. There's your 10. D, Dominion. You've got a 750 watt Class D amp. And Class D amps especially lend themselves well to subwoofers because they're fast and they make big power in a compact format and not a ton of heat. That way, when you're already using that much power, you're not turning into a furnace either, because sound good, furnace bad, especially if it's in a hot room during the summer. In between that amp and that driver though, a really cool JL patented feature is going on. It's called DMA, Dynamic Motor Analysis. Inside, it knows the position of this driver, of its power output, and it's constantly looking for any variables that may appear somewhere in its playback that could potentially cause problems, not only to just how it sounds, but anything that could come about that would be bad news for the sub that could potentially damage it. Now, this sub, even on the inside, is built like a tank. They even do an extra joinery process between the spider and the actual woofer cone. The spider is basically just a word meaning glorified speaker suspension. So by the way that they bind that together and then connect that to all the electronics wrapped around that, really, really tough. But by having the dynamic motor analysis, you have this extra standard of protection, and it also serves total performance. This driver right here can move a total of 2.7 inches. That's some serious movement. It's what we would call high excursion. In fact, very high excursion, to throw an industry term at it. And this motor analysis makes that possible because it ensures you can push this to its limits without accidentally going over. So that makes for a sub that has tremendous output, awesome sound quality, and great reliability. What more do we really want than those three features at the top of the list? I don't know. Also in this sub is everything you need to control it properly. If you look at the back panel here, you can see all of your controls to set phase, to dial in the sub's volume, to set a crossover, and this uses a true crossover in the sense that it is a 24 decibel slope crossover, and actually configured like the two-way crossover and a decent set of speakers. And the great thing about this sub with the integrated volume control, not only can you really crank it if you want to, though I don't actually recommend that because too much of a good thing, in this case bass, can very quickly become a bad thing. Right where it comes out of the box, set dead center, is almost always right. In fact, sometimes I even have to turn it down a little bit. This sub has power for days, and you're gonna know it. And if you're using this sub with a receiver or an integrated amp that has any kind of bass management or room correction features built in, it'll respond really well to that. You just see the driver and what otherwise looks like a completely solid, nicely built, very well finished, rounded edges, no ports maybe. There's a reason for that. Sealed subs are best. Why? By keeping this enclosure completely sealed and sturdy and heavy and well built enough to manage the back wave off of that driver and not having to vent it, we keep timing right where we want it to be. It means basically this is going to be more accurate and it's going to feel like it turns on a dime, as in each beat, boom, boom. There's going to be nothing hanging around, drifting in the air, interfering with the next note. And across the board, JL does nothing but sealed subs, because that control, that detail, that speed is just too important to them. It's too important to me after hearing it too. This is rated for a true 27 to about 111 hertz. That's a really good range for a sub and very low. That number is a 1.5 dB measurement, as in measured to an accuracy of 1.5 tiny little decibels. Laser focused accurate measurement. Put this in your room, a foot off the wall, factor in that room gain, the fact that having a wall behind a subwoofer just amplifies via laws of physics the sound that it's making. Oh boy, and it plays as low as 20, if not lower. The D-series sub here, whether you get the D110, which is the friend I have with me today, or its little brother, the D108, which is an 8-inch model, so a little less output, but more compact, still sounds great, still has all the tight, clean features that the big brother here has. They're available in an ash finish. It's going to be like a dark wood grain, kind of matte, and in a glossy finish. On average, the glossy finish is about $100 more because you're using some high-grade automotive paint here, some really worthy stuff, lacquering the heck out of it and polishing it to a high mirror finish. I love this sub grilled off. I mean, I think that driver just looks awesome, and this big beefy surround just speaks to how well this thing is made. This is so fun to watch. I'd say leave it off, but check this out. 4 pegs in the corners, line it up, nice rubber grommets, hold it tight, does not rattle at all. You don't have to worry about that. Now, put this in your living room with little consequence. However, depending on your living situation and the preferences of those around you, and of course your own, obviously, if you like grill off, it's fun. Quick note for you guys, how do you hook up the D110? If you look at the back, you'll see that you have your traditional RCA in, and in fact you actually have a pair. Notice the white and red for left and right. You can hook it up using the pre-out on an integrated or a preamp and dial it in accordingly. Basically, it'd be connected full range. That's when we're gonna turn the crossover on and get it dialed in according to what speaker we're using alongside of it, and just set it up manually. Also, one of these ports you can use as a simple single LFE subwoofer cable, which is really just a glorified single RCA if you're using a home theater receiver or a pre-pro that has bass management and a dedicated LFE channel. LFE meaning low frequency effects. Finally, if you look just above those RCA connectors, you'll see a 4-pin. You can actually use this for high level input, or what we call speaker level input. There are some in our community who believe that using a speaker level into their sub helps promote better integration with the speakers in the room. I'm kind of in the middle on that myself, but you do what you feel is best for your system, and let's all thank JL for giving us options. Advantages. This is made in the US, granted with a few global components in there, but assembled finally in the US, probably the best sounding sub in its price bracket. And in the category of being technically entry level, I think among just the best offerings there are, period. Talking about the sound in general. This is so tight, so clean, controlled, and relatively easy to dial in, whether you're doing it manually or you're just doing it through your AV receiver setup. It's certainly sturdy at nearly 40 pounds, and it is built like a tank. This sub means business. It's built by some of the best. If you talk to anybody here at Gramophone about subwoofers, we're probably gonna all confess our love for JL. There are other great subs that we carry, don't get me wrong, but we just keep coming back right here. They're just good. Now, every product certainly has its considerations that you should keep in mind as well. I said this is about the best entry-level sub that I think there pretty much is. That stands. Though some may see the tag on this and go, isn't that a little high for an entry-level sub? Maybe, but it is the best in its category. It's at the top of entry. As I said, this entry is everybody else's mid. If that's still something that's within your means, even if it was a little bit higher than you were expecting, you will be pleasantly rewarded for it, not only with excellent performance, but reliability, longevity, ease of use, a great look, the list goes on and on. The next thing to consider, number 2, is that the D series only goes up to 10-inch subs. Now, you get a little higher in JL's range, and that number certainly changes and goes up more. Many a rooms that we survey at Gramophone when designing a theater for someone, they want to put, 2, 3, 4 ginormous subwoofers in that room. And that room's like what, 10 by 20? And it just absolutely doesn't need that. You get subs that are too big, it actually starts to hurt you because you start getting what's called anti-phase. There's so much output, so much pressure being dumped into that room in some sort of uncontrolled, poorly set up manner, and you just get chaos. What you get out of a really good smaller sub beats the bigger loudness of a bigger sub that doesn't have the sound, that doesn't have the control, that doesn't have the tonality, that doesn't have the detail. You may have a room that truly justifies a bigger sub, and that's one thing, and you may have to look elsewhere if that's so. But regardless, all my opinions aside, at Gramophone, we got you. We have many a great subwoofer options and many a different sizes. I just so happen to be a big fan of these. Sounds awesome, it looks awesome, it integrates well and easily, and if you're looking for an experience that really redefines how you understand bass, if you really haven't had that experience yet, here's a great place to start. And of course, swing by one of our showrooms and you can pick up a D110, Timonium, Columbia, and Gaithersburg. And while you're out, you can visit our beautiful Kitchen Design Center in Hunt Valley so you can add some nice glam to your bass. All right, guys, if you had fun, please give me a thumbs up. That would really help me out. Don't forget to subscribe. Love having you here. Talk to me in the comments. I want to hear from you guys. How you doing? What do you want to talk about? What audio questions do you have? And don't forget the question of the day. We really appreciate you being here. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed our beautiful D110 today. Be seeing you.